Welcome to the Talkin Smash Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hetherington, joined at the National Harbor Convention and Hotel in Washington, D.C., where the JOOLA Teams is happening, and with Ryan Willard again. Such a great guest the first time. I decided that I would invite you back on the condition that you behave yourself.
I'm just going to warn you, as your first repeat offender, I will make no promises for my actions or what I am about to say or do.
I will tell you one thing. As soon as we mic'd Ryan up, and a little bit beforehand, he was quite worried about the prospect that I had found his JOOLA Teams challenger, the kid that he lost to in 2016. I'm getting really close to narrowing it down, so maybe this time next year we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I feel very comfortable in this space that I'm in right now, and I feel like I'm being constantly lulled into a false sense of security because I know that at any point that opponent will pop out and I'm going to be facing a 2,300 player while my actual rating is probably closer to 300.
Well, yeah, 300? Come on, give yourself some credit.
I'm not giving myself any credit. I'm setting myself up for failure even by mentioning that story because I'm about to get humiliated by this guy.
Okay, so the psychological victory is in my hands right now. Ryan, last time we talked a little bit about table tennis across a kind of a range of different perspectives, from your beginning as a newcomer to pro table tennis all the way through to emceeing the world champs. Today I want to talk a little bit about the atmosphere at table tennis events. This is like there's a topic that I'm really passionate about, and I think it's an issue in table tennis. It's a really big issue that needs to be talked about, and there needs to be improvement with it. Now, I want to start by asking you, this is going to bring back some memories for you.
Oh boy.
So you've been to a lot of different table tennis events.
Yep.
US Nationals, US Open, JOOLA Teams, World Championships. Now, you've seen the best table tennis players in the world competing in front of full arenas. So you've seen table tennis at its best, but you've also seen it at its worst. I'm going to bring up an example here, the Aurora Games, which I'm sure you remember really well. What is your perspective on that when you compare the two and when you think about, you're an MC, your job is to be there to pump up a crowd, and when you have like 2 or 4 people in the audience, give us we'll start off with the worst of table tennis. So let's talk about events like that where there's nobody in the audience, there's no atmosphere. We're going to start from ground zero here and hopefully work our way up.
Okay. So an event like that, the Aurora Games, it actually was great. The entire games was a really awesome experience that I enjoyed.
Okay.
When it came down to the table tennis portion and suddenly there was so few people watching, it was incredibly challenging and a little disheartening.
It was like less than 10 people, was that 5, 4?
I would say around 10. Around 10 feels like a good
double
number
digits.
to me. Yeah. But it was a great event, but unfortunately we just didn't get the viewers. Like, the people didn't literally come into our space of where we were designated. And it was really, really tough. But like, for me personally, when I'm in those situations, the thing that gets me through is the great gameplay. Because as long as 2 players are squaring up to go, I'm personally going to be entertained. And so what I have to focus on is how entertained am I? But obviously my job is to be the conduit with the audience, right?
Right.
And so when there isn't, I try and personalize it to those few people that might.
Okay.
Because the optimist in me
something, right?
is one person at a time. And I really do get joy out of having that exchange with people. But when there is no crowd, it's a noticeable difference.
It's like you're on first name basis with the people in the audience.
Yeah.
They invite you over for dinner after the
You never know.
after the show. One of the things that I find difficult to kind of get my head around, and I understand it from an event organizer's point of view, is the obsession with selling tickets. And I know selling tickets is part of what will help make events successful, what will help make table tennis events successful in the long run. As a fan of table tennis, from a fan's perspective, would you personally, for the majority of table tennis events that you've been to, would you be willing to buy a ticket, to pay money for a ticket Or do you think that we're in a stage where table tennis is not ready to sell tickets? The fan experience is not there. Like, what do you see as the actual? Do you think the value is actually there for someone to say, "Hey, I'm going to pay money to come and watch this table tennis event"?
No.
That's. I mean, carry on.
Yeah. So I mean, it feels like a definitive no, but to me, what dictates the cost of a live experience these days and what will bring people out of their houses has to be unique and special and something they can't get online, right? And so you've seen artists really make an evolution with like how concerts are, right? And so, like the production value is on a whole different level now. And so for me personally, I say definitively no. I don't think it's worth the price of admission at this moment for the most part. But that being said, would I personally pay to go see certain tournaments? Yes, because I'm fans of certain people.
Right.
And so it's really my connection with a player that I want to see is what will make me pay that money. But also, it's unfortunately also like, all right, if I'm making it all this way, I'm coming and giving you my money, taking this time, it's going to be a big effort. What am I getting out of this live experience?
Right.
Is the bones of this worth, all like the hoopla that you're putting around it?
Right. And if you think specifically about table tennis, from your experience in table tennis, what do you think is, what are some of the factors that you feel are missing from table tennis? I mean, some of the events are really good. Like the World Championships in previous years have been really good. Yeah, I guess it's starting to become a little bit more of a show, but generally, I mean, like even here, I mean, we're in a tournament hall right now with 1,100 players in it. There are 267 teams. And I mean, maybe that's part of it. There's a big team vibe here, and there's families here, and a lot of noise that you'll probably hear some of on the podcast in the background. But what is it that you feel is really missing? Like, what is the essence of a live event that you think should be in table tennis?
So the JOOLA North American Teams Championships, to me, is what made me fall in love with this type of event. And
losing the crying kids?
Yeah. The tears, they just feel so warm and welcoming. No, but this particular event for me is what made me fall in love with huge tournaments, right? And to me, it really is the team play, which is why I find Major League Table Tennis's format so interesting. Like I enjoy getting behind a team and seeing the synergy. Unfortunately, with the table tennis event, if it's singles or even doubles, it's hard to really track a team unless it's that one single player that you like. And so like, if you're just going just to watch one player, it's hard to know if they're actually going to make it to the finals, right?
Yeah.
And so you're then basing it on like who's in the finals if you're going or not potentially. But that being said, within the actual arena, I think we have a really unique atmosphere here, right? But the thing that I think's honestly missing, which probably is not the response you would expect, is people who don't know anything about the sport. People who are not associated at all. Because this alone, when I'm looking around and seeing 160 plus tables, that alone is a spectacle.
Yeah.
Most people walk in and are like, what is this? I've never seen anything like this. This is insane. So that alone would wow people. But then you put the high level players on here and then they see them, you're getting the oohs and the ahs and the energy of people who are excited and not people who have been participating in this tournament or watching table tennis daily. So that's one component, but another way to bring those random people in, alcohol, food.
Yeah.
You know, things.
Yeah, I think like with this tournament, you have kind of all of these doors, right? You have all of these exit doors along the side. And there's a lot going on in this convention and hotel. And you will get people who kind of, a door gets opened by a player on their way out and somebody will kind of stick their head in and people are like, oh wow, they're out there with their phone videoing. How do you get them to actually come into the hall? I mean, okay, we circle back to the idea of selling tickets. At the front, it's like, okay, this is how much it costs to buy a ticket. You need to be able to capture those people. And my philosophy is that it should be free. Get people in here first. It's so hard to. People don't know what table tennis is. They think it's a game that's played in the garage. Why would they want to go and watch a ping pong tournament when they don't understand that it's a professional sport and that it's high level? So how do you convince those people to come to an event and get them through the front door while also asking them to pay for it? That's kind of like, that's like the sticking point for me, we need to let them in for free. Just filter them through the door. Get them walking around here, taking videos of stuff that's going on, going, holy crap, look at the size of this tournament. I've played table tennis in my basement, and look where I am now. There are like 1,000 players in here. And that's like, you can't reach those people. Like, we really fail to reach those people. It's only happened a few times. I don't know if you were at the US Open. We were at the US Open in 2016.
Yep.
And Adriana Diaz made the final. And
it was electric.
And Puerto Ricans just out in Vegas.
Showed up.
Just showed up. They showed up to watch Adriana play, and it was so cool. And they loved it. But we just don't get those people through the door. And a lot of the time, when you go to a tournament that has a large number of entries like this one, you fill the stands with players, with parents. You go to a tournament that's small, there are no spectators because there's less entries. You don't have the ability to fill a stand. So
I agree with your philosophy, and I think one of the reasons I like to buy things at Costco is because I get the free samples, right? You try before you buy, and you're like, oh, this is great.
Okay. I was wondering where you were going with that. It's like Costco?
But when you come to an event like this, if you're staying in this hotel where there's so many things to do that are just handed to you, I think there's a lot of ways to get people in this, which would be starting with some sort of partnership with the actual venue, that they're giving away a certain amount of tickets to certain people that they just deem, or allowing us to promote here. It's like guerrilla. You got to just convince person by person. Like when we were at YOLA Global down in Florida.
Yes.
I remember meeting this couple outside who were looking at some of the pickleball stuff. And we just start talking, and I tell them I'm over the table tennis side, they should come check it out.
Yeah.
And they did.
Right.
They wandered in and they watched, and they were like amazed by it. They had so much fun. They spent the whole day there. But it's going out and making personal connections for people to experience it at as low of a risk as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
That's actually a good point. And I think that now with YOLA, we're in a really unique position to start crossing over events, to start hosting events together. I mean, we send now, if we sponsor a pickleball venue, usually we're sending table tennis tables as well. So a lot of the new pickleball places that are popping up, and they're popping up everywhere now, they have table tennis tables in them. So yeah, I think that idea of capturing similar audiences, because there are a lot of people who play pickleball who are now very interested in table tennis as well. People interested in pickleball from table tennis, just like crossovers. I'll write that down. We'll make a point of looking at that. So one of the things for me after I came to the US, and I initially wasn't really that into American sports. Being from New Zealand, I grew up watching rugby and netball and not so much cricket, but I didn't really get into basketball or the NHL. Certainly not football, because when you come from a rugby nation, there are certain allegiances that you have to uphold. So, sorry US, but football's out of the question for me. But I did eventually go to some NBA games. And I was also very lucky earlier this year that my boss, Tom, who you know very well, took me to an NHL game. And I really had no interest in hockey at all. I had kind of a bland experience when I was in the Czech Republic, getting stuck in bars in the evening when the Hockey World Cup was on with people who were kind of drinking and not speaking English. And I would just be there all night, and the only thing I could do was watch hockey. And it didn't really get me excited about it. So I had this predisposed, not really interested in hockey. I went to an NHL game. It was awesome. It was so cool. And the NBA, they have kind of like some added digital atmosphere that they pump in, and there's so much going on. The people are so rowdy. Again, it's like that team, getting behind their team, everyone's wearing their team shirts. And I was like, man, there's so much in these sporting events that could be really cool in table tennis. Which comes down to the question, table tennis does have a big audience. You listen to the stats where, they're like, oh, it's a top 3 Olympic sport. When it comes to viewership, the viewership stats for like the World Championships or the Olympics online are huge. So digitally, it's watched. Do you think, I don't even know if you watch that much table tennis online.
Are you asking me, or are you saying you don't know?
Now that it's out there, yeah, I'm asking.
I don't watch enough.
What does that mean? You might watch more than me, for all I know now.
No. I would say I've watched, in the last year, 2 different WTT events online, like following the event. That's about it.
No comment. That might be more than me. But do you feel like the investment in table tennis is always pushing towards digital? I mean, they kind of understand that that's where the audience is, and so they're trying to improve the digital side of marketing the events. But if you watch events like that, and some of them are in places that are they don't have big table tennis audiences, like countries that are not particularly interested in table tennis specifically, the stands are empty. And, a lot of the focus is on, now you have like no lighting in WTT around the edges. It's like pitch black. You can't see if there are people in the audience or not. And when they have the live streams, they build these big walls around the court. They close the court in. So you can tell that it's like, part of it's like, yes, they're focusing on the digital audience, but another part of it is like, they're kind of covering up the fact that there are no people in the audience. And you almost wonder if is that an excuse for them to not try and build the actual live experience? That was such a long question. I'm just going to give you a moment to process all of that while I breathe.
So,
the gist of it is, do you feel like table tennis is too focused on its digital audience when we need to, if you watch it online, the seats are empty. And it really, you feel like, not disappointed, but I don't know, it kind of like dampens your spirits to be like, oh, no one's there watching. Like, this match is amazing and no one's watching. Like, for me, it does. I hate seeing empty stands in table tennis because they're great players. They deserve to have people in the, watching them play and enjoying the experience. But I always feel like nobody's focusing on making live events better.
I would agree. And so, like, the analogy that I would bring it back to is like film and television versus theater, right? And for me, as a filmmaker, that side of myself, I will always watch theater. I will always want to do theater. There's a different vibe that you get, and it's the core of what we do, right? But then once you go to film and TV, you have cameras, you have sets, you have all sorts of things stopping. Yeah. Theater is just this pure experience. You go in, you go out, and you have the play in your mind, and that's it. The live experience, for me in recent years, has come back around after COVID and being so reliant on screens. Getting to do things live to me is like what gets me going. It's what I look forward to.
Right.
And that the personal interactions that I have with people at these events, the little moments, it builds and adds to it. So, but the tough part is with like the way the economy is and how much money everyone's making, the reality is like, I gotta be on a little bit of a budget.
Yeah.
I gotta be choosier about the things that I do.
Right.
But I thrive going to live events personally as an extrovert. So it's a tough question, Matt, because I think that table tennis is doing the right thing by pushing as digitally as they can. But of course, I think they're neglecting the live. They always have and probably always will, because it's so tough. Since it's an individual sport, it's hard to track. It's not like F1 where you have a set amount of racers, the field can kind of change at any time, and it's moving so much quicker in a way. But like, you at least have teams in F1 that you're following. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I think the hard disconnect is of drawing that live audience, because it can always change who's going to be on top.
It's a good answer. I like that. I have a break segment for you.
Oh, God.
Which, may I just point out that I've now changed the way I do the break segment. So
Okay.
I send him the script for, not the script, because it's not scripted.
Okay.
Say whatever
There's no
I want.
Script. I've got no
It's
script.
an outline, just so he knows what's going on. The break segments, I generally print the outline out and then I write the break segment on the paper, so he hasn't seen it. I did forget to bring the piece of paper, but luckily I remembered. This is the perfect break segment for this topic. This is something that I kind of used to just randomly daydream about this. It was quite funny. Of like table tennis events where the players have entrance music when they come out to the main court.
Yeah.
And so I've decided to call this break segment the Grand Entrance.
Okay.
I'm enjoying coming up with these little names. And basically the gist is, if there was a big show and there was one center court and a big audience, and players had to choose their own entrance music, now I'm going to give you a list of players,
Okay.
and you are going to tell me what entrance music you would pick for them.
Oh my gosh. Can I look at my phone to like pull music up, get names of things?
Yeah, as long as we're not going to infringe any copyrights.
No, I won't play any music.
Okay, all right. All right. He probably has a playlist of entrance music on his phone.
I just have some songs that I've thought things too.
I used to randomly, I think on like a few different occasions, I would just be sitting around kind of like daydreaming or just thinking of random stuff. It's always about, like a lot of the time it's about table tennis, and I would just randomly think of like being at an event and wondering like what my entrance music would be to like walk out to the stage.
I've been asked that question and have had entrance music to
really?
go on stage for things. Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, you could choose different music going to like different countries.
Yep.
It's like if I did like a WTT event in Japan, maybe I'd go out to like the Final Fantasy VII battle theme or something.
Ooh, I like that.
All right, anyway, enough about that.
Okay.
All right, so the first player is Lily Zhang.
Lily Zhang.
Entrance music for Lily Zhang.
I'm gonna give her the same music that I would choose for myself because I love the song. Macklemore, Ryan Lewis, Can't Hold Us.
Okay, nice. All right, the next one's gonna be tricky.
Okay.
It's Amy Wong.
I'm gonna throw a curveball out there for a song most people might not even have heard. It's by Damian Marley. It's called As We Enter.
Is that what kind of vibe is that song?
It's got a hip hop funk kind of vibe. It's a little tricky like Amy, where it feels like it's infusing different styles, where I'm like, wait, what's happening? And then suddenly I'm just grooving to the beat. Kind of like when I'm watching Amy, where I'm like, turning my head at first, like, what's happening? And then she's crushing. And then
I'd probably pick Poker Face by Lady Gaga for Amy. All right, Lubomir Pishte.
Ooh, the human
Trick
highlight
shot, man,
reel.
the highlight reel.
Okay, let me think of a song real quick. I feel like
This is tough. I feel like the first two you've set a pretty good pace, and now you're under pressure to keep up with that now.
It's tough because like I've met him too, but I want some like EDM or house music for him, right? I'm trying to think of like what a good.
This is why I don't tell him what's in the segment.
I see. My problem is I forget the names of the songs. Do you know what I mean?
He's just gonna do the old do. Wait, maybe that'll work with Shazam.
Just yell it out into Shazam.
Just do into Shazam.
You know, I'm gonna give Lubomir Pishte a complete curveball in this as well. I'm gonna give him some 90s.
Okay.
Some 90s R&B. Motown Philly, because that was the first song that made me think I could dance really, really well. And like when I watch Lubomir Pishte play, I'm just like, I feel like I'm moving in my seat next to it. I feel like he might dig some 90s R&B.
Nice. This is good. We have like a very different I mean, I didn't pick one for Lily, but maybe I'll circle back around to that. I think for Lubo, I would go with Magic by BYOB.
Ooh, I like that.
I've now decided that I'm participating in this break segment as well.
It's good. I need help on this because like certain songs.
Okay, so I know you've talked about this player a lot, so hopefully this one should be a little easy for you. It's Hugo Calderano.
You know, I would go with Superman. And you know that pod? You!
Yes.
I just imagine the crowd being like, ooh, go! Doing that.
Nice. That could happen. We need to message him now.
Yeah.
We'll tag him in this and message him. Okay, this is, we're going to the top.
Yep.
Ma Long.
I don't know why, but I feel like he would be okay with this. I'm gonna give Ma Long.
We're not gonna check with him.
Yeah, I'll call him. I'll shoot him a text.
Speed dial.
Yeah. I'm gonna give him New York or Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z. And the reason I say this, from what I've heard of certain people, they like New York, but I feel like I think I remember seeing a video of something of him mentioning New York, and I feel like he would appreciate that city and that vibe. And to me, that's what Derek Jeter came out to at the end. And
don't worry, I know who Derek Jeter is.
I consider Ma Long like one of the GOATs, so I think he would get that same song.
All right. Well, I'm going to move past that one. I won't take too long.
Okay.
But just because I'm me, I also put me on there. So I now want to know what my entrance music is.
Oh, that's easy. It'd be the theme song for What We Do in the Shadows.
I don't know what that is. Why? What? Why does that sound so sinister? I feel like I haven't thrown enough of a curveball at you to be.
No, you know what? Actually, I would give you. I would give you Duel of the Fates.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I'll take that. Okay.
Duel of the Fates, because I have a feeling.
So next time we do a podcast, I'm gonna have to get the red and black paint out. Like, my face up.
I would not be surprised if I walked into a room with you painted as Darth Maul, with that child who's now 2300.
Yeah. Yeah. I did dress up as Obi-Wan Kenobi for Halloween.
I am disappointed you didn't win the Office costume contest.
That's on the record now. Okay, that was great.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that.
Okay, moving on to the next question. You kind of talked to this before. So a lot of Olympic sports and events that are affiliated with like official national sporting bodies that are with like the USOC, they're against selling alcohol in venues. I don't know if you ever saw the World Championships of ping pong. It was like a sandpaper. Andrew Bagley was super good at it. The sandpaper rackets, it was one table. They get like a couple of thousand people into a venue in London, sell them a ton of beer, they get rowdy. It was the same guy, Barry Hearn, who did snooker and darts. I mean, you've seen darts before for sure. So that kind of rowdiness was put in front of sandpaper ping pong, which has longer rallies than no spin. So my question for you, especially given that you were part of this kind of innovative direction that Gordon Kay was going in, Gordon obviously being USATD CEO before and now he's with JOOLA, of taking the finals into smaller arenas, more intimate environments, putting the people like right on the sideline, lights, music, bar tab, like having a bar there. How did you feel about that? Do you think we should be doing that? Do you think we should be getting smaller arenas and getting people right in front of the action, as opposed to like these big arenas that we have for like World Championships where people are further away?
Yeah, I think you gotta start small, pack places out, and then expand when you need more space, right? And that's kind of like any model I would say for growth. Nothing feels emptier than when there's not a lot of people in a big place, right? And when you look at some of the leagues over in Europe, when I've seen videos, it feels like it's in a small gymnasium, right? But it's packed with people all throwing their scarves around, because they support one team, right?
Yeah.
So I do like the idea of like how bands, when bands are up and coming, they go to small venues, they rock out small
right.
venues.
And like comedy clubs.
Yeah,
Like,
comics are the same way, and you got to kind of grind. So I do think smaller venues are a great way to go. And of course you want alcohol. Like you want to get people out the house, you got to give them something.
Right.
You know?
That's how you get them in the doors.
Yeah. Well, and when you have alcohol there, yes, there's a chance that inappropriate behavior can come forth, right? But generally, people feel more comfortable when they have something they're comfortable with. Most people drink alcohol to some extent. And then
it's kind of like the idea of there's like two separate events. There's what's happening on the table, and then there's what's happening in the audience.
Yeah.
And right now we don't cater to what's happening in the audience. You're just sitting there watching what's happening on the table.
I don't know why alcohol is not served at events. I'm going to guess it has to do with like liquor license and those types of things and a whole other set. But I don't know, man. I came up in the spin era, and I think alcohol and watching high-level table tennis goes hand in hand. And for me, it's like way more fun. And so I think it'd be a big draw, and just finding ways to make it more comfortable and a more user-friendly experience for people. Like the user experience is so important and often overlooked. And like when I think of someone like Gordon Kay, right, when we were doing USATT back in the 10s, like honestly, he was ahead of his time. He was talking about these types of things back then.
Which is where like ITTF and WTT evolved into.
Yeah, and what I saw at the 2021 World Championships, when I honestly saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is what Gordon has been talking about. Like, this is what he'd been trying to execute, but we just didn't have the resources or the funds. And so like, I think the live experience is incredibly important. And even though it might cost money in the upfront, creating a better live experience for people, I think has a better chance to create more digital media and more fans that will continue to follow if they've been there.
To wrap things up here, and what has been a very enjoyable podcast on a topic that, as I said, I'm pretty passionate about. I know you. I mean, this is you to a T, is creating atmosphere in these kinds of events. If you were in charge, if you were the creative director of your own big table tennis event, what are like five things that you would be focusing on that you would really want in your event?
Okay, so like if it was this event or just an event?
A table tennis event.
Okay, the first thing I would do is keep it in a small, sexy venue. Something that's just different. It doesn't have to be a convention center, right? Focus on it being small and basically littering the surrounding area with tickets and just giving hype and promotion and having...
Small arena, give away the tickets, get people in the seats.
Yep, get people in the tickets just so they can see.
We know alcohol's in there.
Alcohol is going to be in a venue.
Number 3, alcohol in the venue.
Alcohol obviously has to be there. I think you want a good MC and host, someone to like tie the room together.
If you're hiring.
But if you have a good MC host, it's not just them. The MC host is the mouthpiece for the entire production, right?
Right.
So you have to have a good team that's putting this on, that's not only promoting and marketing, that's one piece of it. You have to have a well-organized and well-run event so the players have the best conditions they can possibly play in, and they have this mutual understanding that they're playing to show this audience how great this sport is and how fun this is. So...
One more. Come on, number 5, round it up.
I would do a halftime show. And I think you have an opportunity, if people are coming to see a table tennis event, to throw in an act that's completely different from what people originally came to see. It doesn't just have to be a live performance. It could be games or things you interact with. But I think there's an interesting time between games when you can do things to make it feel more interactive.
I like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. When Ryan finally gets that creative director title and has this event, you have to make sure you all come to it, and we'll give you a discount for tickets.
Thank you.
From $0 down to get everyone to it. Ryan, As usual, it's an absolute pleasure. I mean, I know I'll have you back on here probably at least one more time.
I'll take it.
I don't want to commit your time to this, but yeah, it's been really fun, and I wanted to have a chance to. I know we did the first one by video. It's been a while since we've caught up face to face, so despite all of the craziness going on in the background here, I wanted to sit down on center court at the JOOLA North American Team Champs and do this podcast in person, and yeah, it's been an honor. And
I gotta say, thank you for having me. This particular tournament is very special to me personally. It's where I did my first professional tournament. So every time I walk in here, it's this touch of nostalgia, but also this is, to me, the best table tennis atmosphere, simply because there's so many people here that love table tennis.
All right, guys, thanks for joining me. Of course, more podcasts coming out. I've got more guests coming up. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you're not following on Spotify or Apple for audio, make sure you do. It really helps out. But we'll be back on YouTube and the Infinity app and all other audio platforms. And until next time, we're still talking Smash, even when the cameras stop rolling.
Let's go, baby.